At the outset of this third voice recording in this series about figuring future paths that I might go along, I have a couple of things that I want to clarify. One is an apparent contradiction. With what I'm studying, I understand that I need structure instead of just, like I gave the example of, you don't learn a language by reading a dictionary. You need structure so that you have exposure to context in a scaffolded way. If you're not familiar with the concept of scaffolding, I like to use visual examples to make concepts make more sense. So you have scaffolding for like a physical building. If I'm trying to paint the building, that's my objective here. I'm trying to paint the building. I have scaffolding that I stand on so I can reach up as far as my tiptoes go, and I can brush, and however long of a brush that I have, I can reach up and paint that height. But I can't get higher than how far I reach. I need to go back and add more structure. I need to add another layer of scaffolding. Then I can climb up higher and I can paint more. I can reach up higher on that building. The whole goal, like to get mastery, would be like to become a master in some subject. To really understand something would be like painting a skyscraper and being able to reach up to the top floor. The thing is, like with learning, there's never a top floor that you have, but you still want to be up there in the clouds, up there among the top people, where you have a great deal of competency and you've come a long way and you have a great amount of things that you can do within the technical area that you've chosen to dedicate yourself towards. I recognize that I do need that structure, that self-learning can only go so far, but self-learning is very important, especially for reaching that initial plateau of like you're introduced to things. You have an understanding of what things are. Like I don't need another example, description of how a buffer overflow attack works, or what is social engineering, what is a computer virus, what is a Trojan in viruses, or how does a worm differ from a virus? Well, the main thing is that worms generally focus on replicating a whole lot. Where anyway, you get your foot in the door, you have your feet wet, and it's like, okay, now I'm in tutorial hell. So I understand basic stuff, but like, how do I get from, I understand what this is. I understand more than someone who would like watch a documentary and feel like they have an understanding of stuff. It's like, no, I get what's going on with the concepts here. Now, how do I get to a point where I'm able to be hired? When you reach that plateau of like, okay, where do I go? Because I'm just running into crap that's not really helping me develop. Once you get that feeling, then you need some way to add that structure. You need to add that next scaffold layer up there so that you can reach up higher. And sometimes that requires like course structure, which is why I am talking through the possibilities that I have with looking through a properly structured course for cybersecurity. The first thing that I'm going to say, which is immediately off the table, but I want to address it, is going back to university or something like that. Because like I was through the grapevine, let's say, I'm not going to go into stupid logistics about it. Through the grapevine, I was approached and this group wanted me to join this university and do this cybersecurity program. I said, okay, how much does it cost? And there's around $50,000. And I go, okay, no, I'm going to shop around. Maybe I'll call you back. Don't call me back. Maybe I'll call you back if I find something that like justifies this cost. They're like, oh, but there's like such great opportunities and everything. This is such a fast track and you can make that money back or whatever. First of all, I don't trust you because you reached out to me and that shows desperation. Second of all, part of this is like my own pride of I want to be able to do this on my own, and I don't want my trust broken again. I know that there's scam artists and stuff out there. Even if you look legit and everything, if I do not get everything out of this in a complete and honest manner, which you're presenting yourself as, I'm going to feel cheated, and I don't want to be taken the fool. So I have a lot of hostility towards the general uselessness of university and all that, because so much of it's about appearances and appearing formal and all of this. The cheapest program that I could find that was through like accredited university doing cybersecurity stuff was $20,000. And I just don't care for that. And like looking at the different programs online, I think INE has their premium program. It's under $1,000 for a year. And I go, okay, I understand that I have the discipline to go through like a structured course. That's how I did a lot of stuff for CISSP studying. I had a bunch of material and reference videos to look at that had a whole lot of material to go through, a couple of textbooks to read. I had a loose syllabus of a lot of information and I was able to go through that. I do not have that for like cybersecurity in general, so I want to be part of one of these programs like Cybrary or like INE or like Zero to Mastery. Those are the three ones. None of this is sponsored, by the way. And I wanted to like compare and contrast among those. First of all, with Cybrary, I took them for a year and I studied a whole lot of their basics alongside doing programming like as a job, where that made me realize that I could not maintain the job that I had while learning effectively, balancing web development as well as learning cybersecurity. So it's like I would have to fully be dedicated to just studying cybersecurity, but also just the way that things were presented just didn't click with me. Nothing personal, things didn't stick with me from the way that things were presented on Cybrary. Maybe it works for other people, that's fine, not for me, want to look for something else. I found that with Zero to Mastery has a pretty wide library. I'm bringing these things up, Cybrary, Zero to Mastery, and INE, because they have like a library of stuff to go through, as opposed to just buying an individual course here, an individual course there. So because I have this sort of full-time dedication towards studying, I want to have like a whole lot of stuff that I can chew through at my own pace, but I also don't know enough, and I don't have enough like references and all this to buy bits and pieces where it'd be like $30 for intro to web development with Python and Flask if I were doing web development. And then it's another $30 if I want to learn Angular, and it's another $50 if I want to learn HTML and CSS. I know that I'm mixing like references here, talking about web development while also talking about cybersecurity, but this pay-as-you-go kind of piecemeal thing, I don't know what I need to learn in what order when it comes to cybersecurity. I am not an expert that can put together a syllabus. And that's the thing. Being an English teacher professionally, I realized that it takes a lot of competency to understand what levels of English kind of match with each other. What kind of grammatical structures do you have to learn before you do something else? And this was a big point of discussion when talking with other teachers, because I worked at, like in Poland, I worked at a private academy where we made our own like lesson plans, where we had like structure and all of this to it, but we would often debate about how we would mix and match things. There's different levels that make sense in a certain order is what I'm getting at. And when I'm just a student trying to study on my own, I don't know what I need to learn in what order. That's the bottom line. So I want to sign up for a program where I'm not just buying bits and pieces because I don't know what to study in what order. And I also want to study a whole lot and not kind of get bogged down, especially by the hesitation of, this is $30 here, but that's also $30 there. How do I manage this? That's a bit of a hassle, and that's a lot of pressure that's on me, as opposed to I do a one-time thing, even if it does come out to be more and more money in the end. If that structure is there, then I am paying. That's something that I'm paying for, is the convenience of things being aligned in a way that makes sense, so that I am not wasting a whole bunch of effort studying things that I think I need to know, but I don't actually need to know and aren't going to help me at that point in time, which I am at when I encounter it. So that's a lot of complexity that goes in there, but that organization, having things set up in their proper order, is something that I'm absolutely looking to purchase. Well, I guess it is hard to have a sense of trust regardless of accreditation or whatever, because you don't know how legitimate anything is, which that's why I'm very focused on doing the trial period for Zero to Mastery, which is like a week-long trial period. I should also get this little thing out of the way, is that I want to build a website so that I can like track what I am doing and like put updates of here's what I've learned, and show progress for how I've been developing as I continue to study these concepts. In a huge aspect of making firm, how do I say this, solidifying the things that you've learned is by explaining them as if you are teaching the concept for like whatever chapter you just studied. And so that's part of the aspect of why I want to build a blog, why I want to do voice recordings and have a place for that, and I want to do that on my own website. Part of that, like the super simple thing, which I'm probably going to cross post everything to a Facebook group so that I have like a collection of voice recordings, I have a collection of posts, I have a collection of here is what I've been learning and how I've been developing. And this is part of that collection. The lowest overhead is just, I have access to Facebook. I can make a group that I can just put links to the videos here and make posts about my daily progress. However, I don't have the flexibility and control of like having my own website, and I also can't post up code that I've done myself, especially if I want to do web development projects, which is something that I want to at least get out of my system. And that's a big reason why I'm leaning towards Zero to Mastery, because INE is focused solely on cybersecurity. And so here's my big dichotomy. Should I just be whole hog into cybersecurity with INE, or should I continue my jack of all trades thing, seeing how well I click with doing a bit of Golang, doing a bit of Angular, and, taking each of these one at a time, but then, I do one and then I do another. So I have this side-by-side comparison of what am I really passionate about? What really facilitates my well-being? That's the kind of comparison that I want, and I can get that variety out of Zero to Mastery, and that's why I'm leaning towards them very heavily, though I do realize that I could be shooting myself in the foot by not being completely dedicated towards just cybersecurity all at the beginning there. I know that I've been able to make a website before. I want to make a website again and continue that, expansiveness with that. That's something that's just weighing on me. I must get this completed to get it the heck off of my chest. I must make a website. It's one of these stupid things that I can't explain. It's like you have an obsession, a fixation. This must be completed. I know that I can do it. This is something that I want to do. And it's also like a professional thing of no one's going to take you seriously if you don't have your own website. Oh, you understand stuff about coding, but you don't have your own website? You're a freaking idiot. So I want to get this done. And something that will facilitate the maximum amount of customizability with that is being able to learn something like Angular, which is something that I want to get back into anyway, and doing that. So this is another thing that I have to tackle in its own way where, yes, I'm looking up I'm looking up things about WordPress, about how do I do website hosting, how can I make something using JavaScript, HTML, CSS, something very plain, how can I use some templates, how could I perhaps use Bootstrap to get a very simple website up and running that looks like a blog and all of that. So none of that has jack diddly squat to do with cybersecurity. But having your own website is something that's going to absolutely help you with professional development. So there's my justification for pursuing that. And actually, it's something that I enjoy. And that's something that's technical that I enjoy. And I might be able to facilitate that with the Zero to Mastery courses that go into Angular. So this is not looking down on INE at all. This is looking down on myself as being a jack of all trades that's a creature of passion and has no focus whatsoever. Well, it's not that I don't have focus. It's that because I do not have a mentor with a clear guide of you will have a place, you will have belonging. Absolutely. I can assure you that you will be a meaningful person belonging to a meaningful group if you follow this path. That was like an unspoken assurance of, a journeyman who is a blacksmith back in the Middle Ages. His father was a blacksmith. You will have a place in this community if you continue the family name of being a blacksmith. Very straightforward, taken for granted. It's the kind of thing that people don't think about, and it's very unnatural to have to think through this tactical planning of how do I live a meaningful existence. And that's why it's very hard for people to honestly have this conversation of what can I do to be the most effective in my life. And it's not even about being effective. It's about living in a way that is not suffering, living in a way that facilitates well-being. I'm focused on capital W, well-being, and something that will help me understand that is being able to compare side by side me studying one language, me studying another language, doing web development, because I've been away from web development for a while, with being away from Russian and being away from sign language for a while, and going back into it a little. It's yeah, I could pick this up again. I'm sure that I could pick up JavaScript again, and I could understand the framework of Angular and move along there, maybe post some custom stuff. And that's why I want to have a custom website, so I'll be able to share some things that I can show my development for. Aside from having access to a variety of things so that I can satisfy this comparison, another reason why I want to do Zero to Mastery is it gives a general understanding of cybersecurity. It's not to the highest super degree, which INE goes into much greater depth, especially with the hacking labs that they have, but I will have enough, I should have enough to be very confident in doing a job application after going through, not necessarily after, it's going to be during. And at the same time, I have other resources that will facilitate greater learning with hack the box exercises and capture the flag things, though I do need structure in order, because I've done capture the flag stuff before, and there's a lot of here's the problem, figure it out, where I need a springboard to jump off of instead of trying to jump in the pool and slamming my face onto the freaking concrete again and again and not making any progress. There's another thing is when I was talking to a guy that is a security professional and I was talking about capture the flag stuff, he's like, yeah, that's really not relevant. And he's on a blue team and he has a lot of good insight. And I don't like capture the flag stuff. I'm sure it's fun or whatever the heck. For me, it's just another exercise to go through to learn things. And I don't really think that I'm learning that much for it. So I'm going to try a different method of learning instead of trying to hammer again and again at something that is not effective for me. So obviously I have to change the context if the learning methodology within a certain context is not working. Obvious. It should be obvious, but it's not obvious until I say it out loud and make it clear. The other thing about INE being much more in-depth, I should be able to acquire entry-level stuff with Zero to Mastery, as well as the additional resources that I have. Because like the other path is, oh, just learn stuff on YouTube. That's nice and everything, but I want a little more structure so that I can be effective with my time. Because it took me forever to learn things with just web development. If I had more structure, I'd be much happier with that, and that's what I'm paying for. I understand that. I'm absolutely able to make that investment. I'm not going to make $50,000 of an investment on a gamble, but I'm fine with, a few $100s. The other thing is, instead of paying on my own for big, important cybersecurity training that goes super in depth, I think it's a wiser decision to personally pay for something that gets my foot in the door while also applying out to different jobs. And when I negotiate, talking with whoever the representative is for a prospective employer, talking about, well, what's the continued learning path like, and what are some of the beyond entry level certifications and skills that you would be able to partially fund for your employees, for me to learn more going forward. Because I am absolutely certain, with just the amount of bloody time that I put into cybersecurity and stuff, yeah, I'm at entry level. I could probably get a job with the technical skill that I have right now, but I want to have a greater sense of competency with that, and that's why I want to tackle all of these, more practical skills of, here, I have something to show for this, especially with doing hacking labs, in a way that I can demonstrate, yeah, I completed this, and here's my write-up for it, and here's my explanation of what I learned from it. That's why I need structure, so that I can do that in an effective manner, instead of, I don't know, just wandering on YouTube, being stuck in tutorial hell for even longer. I realize that I'm at the point that I need that structure so that I can have things that I can report on, that I can show, that I can develop onward from, instead of wandering aimlessly. Once I get to a job position of some form or another, they're obviously going to want me to continue education. There should be something in place to have partial funding to continue on with getting more certifications. Like, looking back to my previous job when I was doing web development, yeah, I was in the web development lane, and they were telling me to stay in that lane. But they did have development opportunities to get further down into that rabbit hole, which was something that I did not enjoy, and that I was being honest with myself and said, no, I'm going to pursue something that actually facilitates my well-being instead of making me feel sick. So, continuing from there, I'm actually, in the next episode here, I will actually talk about how things like video game modding and using Blender, the 3D modeling software, does relate to a cybersecurity mindset. So look forward to that one, and I'll start that recording shortly.